homages.
Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Dhammam saranam gacchami.
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami.
Sangham saranam gacchami.
Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Welcome to the temple today. We
Mike.
love seeing everyone, and we welcome you to our special Obon service. Obon is remembering our ancestors and honoring them, which is why we have several photos on the altar. And if you didn't bring one, you can honor them visually, emotionally in your heart. Just bring them to mind. So instead of offering incense this morning, we offer a candle to our dear departed ones. So just keep that in your heart. To begin with, the priest will chant the San Sege. It's a verse spoken by Amida Buddha. And this verse comes from the larger Sutra of Immeasurable Life. In that sutra, Dharmakara Bodhisattva, who becomes Amida Buddha, declares to his teacher, Lokasvara Raja Buddha, his 3 strong intentions to become a Buddha himself. The 3 sacred vows, San Sege, are to establish the most incomparable saving vow, to become the great provider and save the poor of spirit and suffering, and attain Buddhahood when his name is heard throughout the 10 quarters of the universe. After we chant the San Sege, then we will continue on with the Shoshinge as we usually do, and you'll find that book in the seat back pocket in front of you. If you are new, and we chant in vertical columns from right to left, vertically top to bottom. So please join us in honoring our ancestors at this Obon celebration. Thank you.
이시무조도 시간 후만도 세이프 조쇼가 가오무르료코 후이다이세이슈 후사이쇼빙그 세이프 조쇼가 가시조부도 묘쇼초지표 극교미쇼몬 세이프조쇼가 여이역진쇼넨 조에이슈봉교 시그무조도 一生天人師人力縁大古不詳無才度少女三苦名交際主役難回避地永遠名詞根本案閉塞小悪道津田全宗門高僧上満蔵異様老持病日月主十期天候音不言一種解放像公正苦毒法上大主従聖表師師苦供養異細部具足習徳本元年史上満得意三害を女部無下地津田未不詳願学営力投資最小尊志願や国家大戦王感動北小天人東右心陽南無不可思議故法蔵菩薩因に自在世自在応部所刀剣勝負浄土院国土人伝自然幕根流無常修正願長法慶雨大偶勢五行死唯死小十十世妙正門寺法不法無量無変更無芸無体公園の少女歓喜知恵子不乱難死無所故超日が故障人生一切群上無故障本願名号少女語死心信用願に因上等学書大涅槃意志滅の願成就如来所以公主世唯世弥陀本願会上極悪事群上会往生如来如実言の一年喜愛心不断煩悩特涅槃凡所逆法再永ぬ妙種死ぬ海一味聖種信仰上昇後意の水波無明暗東内心臓死運無上不信心信心天因用に古不運無運無資源妙無安逆心近行大狂気即応超税合悪臭一切全幕本部人門心如来偶税願分願広大小芸者税人名分だりけ二打部本願念部邪見教満悪衆上信行十字人に難中止難昔インド祭天四音へ中華自地域思考層現代諸公聖書意 妙如来本勢大き釈迦如来両合戦一種五妙難天竺龍樹大事主小生出の財藩無権先世大乗無常法召喚義事小安楽賢治南行六六信行異行指導楽億年未来部本願次年即時入上唯の上昇如来語応報大悲偶然音天神菩薩増論世奇妙無下公如来永州たら謙信寺後世の長大聖願こういう本願力栄光移動群上小一心気抜く六大崩壊一脈入大永州主特使蓮華造世界即昇進用法昇進有本の輪現順図入所自音自王芸本自動乱両天使長公乱小菩薩来三蔵ルシ十条教本書専用気楽法天神菩薩論中芸報道因果健税願大元栄光有他力少女死因唯信心惑前本部信心法承知承知即内藩非死無量光明道小宇宙上回復系両者継承道難所唯妙浄土活ぬ万全自力変言宗円満特合感染症三部三神慶音言増魔法明道非因一生増悪地偶税思案妖怪小妙観
全道六妙無償意
公愛上三陽逆悪光明明後慶二年開入本願大智慧幼者小樹今後心狂気一年総合用意大と逆三人即小小子上楽現進公開一大教延期安養管理祭先祖出身反戦人法慶二道小弁流極重悪人唯勝部が薬剤非正集中煩悩証言追不見大非無権上昇が本自元空妙仏教連民全幕本部人新宗教書後編集戦略本願具悪性現来生じ連伝芸慶地義上位昇し即入略上無意楽一信心二のぬ空兄弟自主死と上妻無変極俗悪同族自主愚道心唯過信地高創世南無阿弥陀阿弥陀 まにじこをえたまえりほしのこうりえんきわもなあくせのもみょうをてらすなりナムアミダアブナアムアミダアブナムアミダブナナムはアミダブナムはアミダブナムはアミダブナムはアミダブナムひだのこりんきわもなしこうそくかむるものはみなむを離ると述べたもおう平等かくに奇妙せよナムはアミダブナムはアミダブナムはアミダナムアミダブナムはアミダブナムアミダブナムはアミダブナムアミダブナム
少女公明ならびなし
ぐしこうのゆえなればいさいのご受けも 鳥犬秘境へを奇妙せよ。
エコ何にしくどく
平等聖祭同菩提心往生らほ。
ナマンダム
ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ。We would like to welcome children to go with Reverend Shelley to Dharma School. We will sing them out. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you. Let the Buddha walk, just walk. Let the Buddha walk with you.
Good morning. The Sutra on Reverence for Parents, or the Sutra about the deep kindness of parents and the difficulty of repaying it. Thus I have heard, at one time the Buddha was living in Shravasti, at the Jeta Grove, in the garden of the benefactors of orphans, together with a gathering of 1,250 great students and many bodhisattvas. At that time, the world-honored one led a great assembly on a walk to the south. Suddenly, he came upon a pile of bones beside the road. The world-honored one turned to face them, placed his 5 limbs on the ground, bowing respectfully. Ananda put his palms together and asked the world-honored one, "Dear teacher, what is the reason that you now bow to a pile of dried bones?" The Buddha told Ananda, "Although all of you are my long-time and foremost students, you still have not achieved far-reaching understanding. This pile of bones belongs to my ancestors from former lives. They have been my parents in many past lives. That is the reason I now bow to them. These bones can be divided in 2 groups, the bones of men and the bones of women." Ananda said to the Buddha, "Teacher, when men are alive in the world, they adorn their bodies with robes, belts, shoes, hats, so that they can clearly assume a male appearance. When women are alive, they put on cosmetics, powders, and elegant fragrances to adorn their bodies, so that they can clearly assume a female appearance. Yet, once men and women die, and all that's left are their bones, how does one tell them apart? Please teach us how you're able to distinguish them." The Buddha answered Ananda, "If when men are in the world, they enter temples, listen to explanations of sutras and texts, take refuge in the 3 jewels, and recite the Buddha's names, then they will die with their bones being dense and white in color. Most women of the world sacrifice much and are saturated with emotion. They give birth to and raise children, filling their duty. Each child relies on a mother's milk for life and nourishment, and that milk is a transformation of the mother's bones. Each child drinks 1,200 gallons of its mother's milk. Because of this drain on the mother's body, she becomes worn and tired, and her bones turn darker in color and lighter in weight." When Ananda heard these words, he felt a stabbing pain in his heart and wept silently. He said to the world-honored one, "How can we repay a mother's kindness and virtue?" The Buddha told Ananda, "Listen well, and I will explain it to you in detail. When I contemplate living beings, I see that, although they are born as human beings, nonetheless, they are ignorant and limited in their thoughts and actions. They don't consider their parents' great kindness a virtue. They are disrespectful and turn their backs on kindness and what is right. For 10 months, while a mother is with child, she feels discomfort each time she rises, and as if she were lifting a heavy burden. Like the ill, she's unable to keep her food and drink down. When the 10 months have passed and the time comes for birth, she undergoes all kinds of pain and suffering so that the child can be born. These are the sufferings she undergoes. Once the child is born, she saves what is sweet for him and swallows what is bitter herself. She carries the child and nourishes it, washing away its filth. There is no toil or difficulty that she does not unwillingly undertake for the sake of her child. She endures both cold and heat, not mentioning what she has gone through. She gives the dry place to her child and sleeps in the damp for herself. For 3 years, she nourishes the baby with milk, which is drained from her own body. Parents continually teach and guide their children in the ways of respect and morality as they grow into adults. They arrange good marriages for them and provide them with the means to acquire property and wealth. They willingly take this responsibility and trouble on themselves without regret. How sad that all too often the children are unkind in return. In speaking with relatives whom they should honor, the children displays no compliance. When they ought to be polite, they lack manners. They glare at those they should venerate and insult uncles and aunts. They scold their siblings and destroy any family feeling that might have existed among them. Children like that have no respect or sense of propriety. The virtue of a parent's kindness is boundless and limitless. Do not take it for granted how difficult it is to repay such kindness. At that time, on hearing the Buddha speak about the depths of a parent's kindness, everyone in the great assembly threw themselves to the ground and began wailing regret. It was a long time before they could control themselves. With loud voices they lamented, "Such suffering! How painful! We are all offenders. We are criminals who have never awakened, like those who travel in a dark night. We have just now understood our offenses, and our very insides are torn to bits. We only hope that the world-honored one will pity us and save us. Please tell us how we can repay the deep kindness of our parents. At that time, the Tathagata used 8 kinds of profoundly deep and pure sounds to speak to the assembly. All of you should know this. I will now explain to you for the various aspects of this matter. If there were a person who carries his father on his left shoulder and his mother on his right shoulder until his bones were ground to powder by their weight, and if that person were to circumambulate Mount Saramu for 100 kalpas until feet are bleeding, that person would still not have repaid the deep kindness of his parents. It is very hard to repay the deep kindness of parents. At that time, upon hearing the Buddha speak about kindness and the virtue of parents, everyone in the great assembly wept silent tears and felt searing regret in their hearts. The Buddha spoke, "Students of the Buddha, if you wish to repay your parents' kindness, write out this sutra on their behalf. Recite this sutra on their behalf. Redress transgressions and offenses on their behalf. For the sake of your parents, make offerings to the 3 jewels. For the sake of your parents, hold the precept for pure eating. For the sake of your parents, practice giving and cultivating blessings. If you are able to do these things, you are being a respectful child. Students of the Buddha, if you wish to repay their kindness, then for the sake of your parents, copy this sutra. This is truly repaying their kindness. For every copy you make will be fortunate to see a Buddha." At that time, Ananda and the rest of the great assembly softly wept. Each one of them made a vow saying, "All of us, from now until the exhaustion of the bounds of the future, will never go against these wise teachings." Ananda then, with a dignity and a sense of peace, rose from his seat and asked the Buddha, "World-honored one, what name shall the sutra have when we chant it and uphold it?" The Buddha told Ananda, "The sutra is called the Sutra about the Deep Kindness of Parents and the Difficulty Repaying It. Use this name when you accord with it and uphold it." The great assembly, gods, humans, ashuras, and the others, hearing what the Buddha had said, were completely delighted. They believed in it, receiving it, and offered up their conduct in accord with it. And they bowed and withdrew.
Hello. I feel as though my voice is not as amplified as normal. Is it in the back? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Not so good. Some people said it was okay. I can't really change it from here. Technically I can, but I have to open the box and turn the little knobs. Okay. It's wonderful to have you here together. The sutra's a little bit of a downer in a way because we feel regret and things, but that's okay because they gave us so much. That's okay. Yeah. The notion in the sutra, and it's very common in Asia, that we should repay the kindness of the people who are kind to us. It's almost a foreign kind of feeling, like, why do I have to repay them? They should have given me a car, right? It's sort of an American way to approach it. But we feel it, and if we experience that thought from 2,600 years ago, so we want to calibrate a little bit for time and space, we can feel that regret. I mean, even then, it's so amazing. Even then, that long ago, traditional time, they're throwing themselves on the ground like, I can't believe it, what have I done? We always could do more, we could always care more, we could always spend a little more time. We should just take the lesson of the sutra as it is offered. So, I am still experiencing the wonderful joy of our Obon gathering last Saturday. Technically, I have difficulty with this Saturday, last Saturday, the Saturday before last, all that kind of stuff. So I meant not yesterday, but a week ago yesterday. We had about 420 people come to the temple for our Obon celebration, and the Dancing for Joy kind of experience. We had obviously Moon Rabbit dinner there, and our friends, the Moon Rabbiteers, we call them. Also the JACL and the Sakura Kai, those organizations came together and joined in wonderful energy. So that was great. And it's part of the same celebration. So usually at temples, we have both of these things. We have sort of a sad, like, oh my God, loss feeling at Obon, but we also celebrate the joy of them being with us. So my talk today will be about Obon, and that it is, if you don't know what that is, Obon is a traditional Buddhist holiday. We usually celebrate July or August. It's especially focused on loved ones who have died and ancestors in general. We can see on the altar there are some recently lost loved ones, but then there's some people that look very ancestral. So they all did all these things so that we could be sitting here remembering them. So that's wonderful. A traditional song tells of our loved ones returning for 3 days at this time in August on the red dragonflies. So if you see a particular dragonfly, that may be them. They come for a visit. And it's good at least once a year to put some effort into remembering. The festival even included dancing, I would note. Moggallana, one of the students of the Buddha, danced for joy when his mother was released from an unpleasant birth. So I can tell you that story a little bit later. The way to peace and gratitude for the wisdom and compassion we receive is what the Buddha teaches. The ones that came before us have done so much for us. They have sacrificed so much. And so we are very grateful. Having considered these ideas, I begin to reflect on my own ancestors and think about where did they reside? Where are they? They're not really gone, and yet they're not gone. I am grateful to them for many things, maybe even things that weren't so good. I have gratitude for. I'm grateful for all that they gave me. When we bring them to mind in this way, they are with us for a visit. That is Obon. Our thoughts are the dragonfly's wings from the song, and they are with us in that way. I'm grateful to them, and I'm grateful to Amida Buddha for the infinite compassion that flows in the universe, for the infinite wisdom that is here just for me, for the light and life of everything. So, what is Obon? I need to take a little peppermint. It is a holiday celebrating ancestors. The account of how it became a holiday for us is found in the Obon Sutra, the experience of Moggallana, one of Shakyamuni Buddha's finest students. Moggallana was also known for having highly developed clairvoyant powers, an uncommon trait among the students. After he became an arhat, he began to think deeply about his parents and wondered what had happened to them after death. He used these powers to clearly see where his parents had been reborn after they had died. He found his father was in a heavenly realm, and that seemed fine. But his mother had been reborn in a lower realm, the realm of hungry ghosts. His mother took the form of a preta there. This is a being with a very, very small mouth and a very large belly. So they're always hungry for something. They can never be satisfied. It is a difficult birth. He could see then that even when she got some rice, she would try to eat it, and the rice grains would turn to hot coals on her tongue. So it was a very unsatisfying feeling. Moggallana was gravely concerned for his mother. As the story goes, Moggallana wanted her to ease her suffering. So he asked Shakyamuni Buddha to guide him. The Buddha then asked Moggallana, what crimes did she commit when she was alive? And Moggallana answered, Teacher, she did not practice respect for life. Her work required her to kill many creatures. She did not practice right speech. Her words often were the sources of suffering for others. She was like someone who rips up living trees and plants dead ones in their place. I dare not recount all her transgressions. It is enough to say that she violated all the 5 wonderful precepts. The 5 precepts of Buddhist lay people are to not kill, not steal, not lie, not to misuse sensuality, and not to become intoxicated. So back to Moggallana. Teacher, I would endure any suffering to reverse my mother's karma. Please, in your compassion, tell me what I can do. The Buddha said, your mother's offenses are deep and firmly rooted. You alone do not have enough power. Although your concern for your mother move heaven and earth, only the awesome spiritual power of the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions is sufficient for her liberation to be attained. The Buddha told Moggallana to place food on a clean plate and perform a complex daily ritual. By doing so, the preta's hunger would be relieved. Some years passed. Moggallana faithfully performed the offering. And these actions by Moggallana created positive karmic energy. Merit, it's called, to benefit his mother, and she was reborn. Through these merits, dedicated to his mother, she finally gained a human birth. Moggallana used merit transfer to rescue his mother. When she was released from torment, Moggallana danced for joy, and that is the origin of our Obon dance. We learn from Moggallana's story that caring for our parents is the highest duty and honor. We welcome anything we can do to aid our parents and ancestors in this life and the next. Most of all, we remember them and care for them in our thoughts. In this time of Obon, we should remember our loved ones. Dr. Matsunaga there suggested that we make their favorite foods and have them for our meals, and just try to connect with them in different ways. Set a place for them at the table when you eat your meal. Their presence is with us, and they continue to guide us, and we can be grateful for them in this time. Obon is a good time to consider our personal ancestors. And as I've been talking, I'm sure many of you have been considering different ancestors. Sometimes that's with trepidation, and sometimes it's with sadness and loss, just joy and love for wonderful moments. And sometimes those memories are a bit thin. I mean, I know I had this cousin, and he was in the Civil War, and we have a picture of him, but I don't really know what happened. I know he died of smallpox in an army camp. So those people they contributed to you too, even if they're a little bit distant. So let's take this moment and just say their names. All of you gathered will have some names to say. You don't have to say them out too loud, but it's nice if we can hear that everybody's saying something. Don't worry that you'll step on someone else's name. It's okay. We'll just say all the names together in kind of a little bit at a time way. Many people brought pictures of those departed loved ones, and we can say those names as well. I'll just ring a bell here, and we'll start saying people's names. Elizabeth Fisher, Robert Fisher, Alma Wolf, Herschel Wolf, Thank you. It's good to bring them to mind in this way together. They're present. Sometimes we can ask, how did they live? Who were they? Where are they laid to rest? It's good to remember that. Take some flowers there sometime when you're in the neighborhood. Huh? We can also think about those gifts we enjoy that they gave us. Reflecting like this for the Dharma talk, it brought to mind two of my ancestors. I will share this process of considering their life. First, I think of my grandfather, Herschel Wolf, Granddaddy Herschel, the way he was referred to. He was a pharmacist and an optometrist, went to Cal Berkeley. He was born in 1882 in Des Moines, Iowa. That's a long time ago, so I chuckled. He was married in 1900 in San Francisco to a concert pianist. Myrnie was her name. That marriage was complicated, and after some time, he realized his dreams of a family and a settled life would probably not happen if he didn't make some changes. Myrnie's showbiz aspirations were also stifled by Herschel's expectations. He loved the outdoors and fishing in the Sierras, and city life didn't often offer that opportunity very often. In those days, it took like a whole day and a half to get from San Francisco to the mountains. So he built, my grandfather divorced and moved to a small town, Sonora, California. He built a life there with a little drugstore, one of two in town, so he could get 2 weekends off a month when he wasn't on call. And in those times, he would go up into the mountains and fish and hunt and camp and do what he loved. He did that with my mother often. So He took pictures when he was there, and he would make postcards and sell them in his store. He gave me, a gift he gives me, is the idea that it's okay to fail at first. It's okay to rebuild your life if it falls apart. It's up to each of us to have that clarity to know when we need to do some rebuilding and make some changes. A second ancestor, my grandmother, Alma Wolf. She was born in Dallas, Oregon, in 1900. She was a high school teacher for about 40 years. She went through a lot in her life. In childhood, fully 4 houses they lived in burned down. We theorized that Alma's mother had a problem with fire. Alma also endured a series of life-threatening events, from diphtheria, I think these are in order, but almost, from diphtheria, the 1917 flu, which killed 5% of the world population, tuberculosis, breast cancer, twice, broken and concussed in a car accident that killed her sister Catherine, who was sitting next to her in the car. Myasthenia gravis. She was hit by a car when she was 90 on the street in Sonora. She had bone cancer and ultimately died of a massive bacterial infection at 100 years old. Through all that, she kept going. She was sort of an energizer bunny of a human being. She just kept going and would not consider any other possibility. In my last conversation with her in the hospital a few days before her death, at 100, she talked about thinking that maybe we should see about moving her to Reno because living alone was getting difficult. So she was literally, 3 days before her death, she was planning the next 10 years of her life. So she showed me tenacity to life. Through so many troubles, every time she received a terminal diagnosis, she ignored it. She just picked things up and went back to living. So that was quite a gift. They're great gifts. They may be small in some ways, but great. And the sum total of all your ancestors' gifts are the foundation of who you are. All the wisdoms and compassions that we have learned and experienced are really great gifts. And we live those onward in our life. They're not separate from us. These dear ones are patently not separate from us. They are all part of Amida Buddha, the wisdom and compassion imbued in many things and thoughts and actions. Really, the universe imbued with infinite light and infinite life is Amida Buddha. Every small piece of goodness there is. I am grateful to Amida Buddha, a dear one who loves and cares for me just as I am, flaws and all. With unending and unlimited dedication, Amida made those vows for each of you. The most important aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha's appearance in our world is to make us aware of the name of Amida Buddha, to tell us about the Pure Land and to give us the Nembutsu, the name that calls, Namu Amida Butsu. Through truly entrusting in the Buddha, we will be born only one more time in the Pure Land, where we will attain clarity and enlightenment, even the ability to truly help others. As Shin Buddhists, we talk about birth rather than rebirth. That is because we know of Amida Buddha's Pure Land. Some of us know we will meet our dear ones in that place again. We feel settled in our faith, and this is good, because you're okay just as you are. We need only to trust. By so many of us, we find that so many of us are limited by our ego desires to reach that trust. We want to do or say something to make our suffering cease. It is easier than that. We need only to trust in the vow. The teacher, Tenjin, he's behind me, one of these pictures, of Kandahar, that's where he taught, told of how we will be born into that other world by the birth of no birth. We will walk into a world of another dimension, like a drop of water enters an ocean. For now, we can do our best to support the Dharma, understand to the best of our abilities, and most of all, be compassionate with others as well as ourselves. We are fortunate to be children and grandchildren of so many parents. We do have so much to be grateful to them for. To close, we offer words of love and encouragement to our dear ones who have passed on. Wherever they may be, bring them to your mind's eye and then repeat after me. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you receive boundless compassion. And may peace and harmony fill your heart. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Some of our spiritual ancestors, Daigon and Alicia, selected our Reno Buddhist Center theme song and instructed us to share it every time we gather together. So we will do that now in their honor. If you would stand, it's on page 49 of the service book. Masako will play the piano for us. Away, away, come away with me. When the grass grows wild and the wind blows free. Away, away, come away with me. And I'll build you a home in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, come, there's a wondrous land. I'll build you a home in the meadow. The stars, oh how bright and far, on a world of pure and eternal law. The stars, oh how bright they'll shine, on that home we will build in the meadow. Come, come, there's a wondrous land for the hopeful heart and the willing hand. Come, there's a wondrous land where I'll build you a home in the meadow. Some announcements, because it wouldn't be a religious gathering without announcements. Tea and treats will be had downstairs. We exit through this door and circle around the stairs in the Haroma Hall. We also have a newcomer circle there. George Killeran, raising his hand, will be sitting at the table where newcomers will gather, and we can ask questions. I will be there as well. Bunch of other announcements printed in here. Please take it away with you and read it. Big calendar on the back, you might notice. And I do want to mention that our Shin Buddhism class has begun. Yesterday we had the first class. We'll have 2 more classes in that series on Saturday at 10 a.m. So Saturday the 27th at 10 and September 3rd. Ooh, September already. It's a 2-hour class, goes till noon. So you can catch up. We have a recording of the first class in case you missed it. Thank you very much.